wrapped up our webinar from earlier today, Microsoft Office 365 versus Google G Suite, the battle for the enterprise. And there were a lot of great questions, and we didn't get to a lot of them. And we're planning on following up with those that left their questions. But there was also some content that we just didn't get to. There just wasn't enough time. And so what we want to do is cover a few things that we think are going to be impactful and meaningful as you, perhaps as an enterprise, considering Google, or maybe you haven't even thought about it and you need to plan for it in the future. Here are some key items that we didn't get to that we would like to make sure you understanding as good takeaways for the future, which is one, a lot of questions about how do I actually approach Google? I've never worked with them. Are they really enterprise ready? How does that interaction work, right? A lot of questions about this. It's really simple. Tell them how you want it to work. Give them guidance on what you expect the relationship to look like. That's a novel idea. It's novel because for many of you, you've never had this opportunity. You inherited the Microsoft relationship. Salesforce has got business side in relationships that are dictating how you need to behave with them. So the beauty of Google, whether it's GCP, Google G Suite, or maybe both, you have the opportunity to actually tell them exactly how you want them to behave. How great is that, right? How great is it that you can give them guidance based upon the things that you wish Microsoft was doing differently, based on how you wish other vendors were doing differently? Because let's not remember, and we brought this up on the webinar, and there was a lot of feedback on this. Kurian has made it very clear, right? Thomas Kurian, the new CEO, Google Cloud, he's made it very clear. A differentiator is going to be, we're going to be easier to work with. We're not going to have hardball sales tactics. We're going to simplify processes, simplify pricing, simplify contracting. That sounds great. Now, they need to execute to it. So if you're an enterprise and you're asking questions about how do I work with Google because we've never had before, I would ask you, how do you want to work with Google? I would advance those agendas. I would reach out if you're large enough and say, hey, Kirsten Cliphouse, we'd like to have a meeting. Again, new head of sales, longtime executive at Microsoft. We'd like to have a meeting. Here's the agenda. Here are the things we'd like to talk about. Take control of that, which leads me to the next major theme. What does taking control even look like, right? You have to continue to understand that you're going to be maintaining a Microsoft relationship. So when you think about evaluation, you have to think about the negotiation. And we touched on this. But here's some key items around the negotiation you need to start planning for. You need to make sure you're asking unified questions, soliciting terms, conditions that are consistent amongst both. But here's the thing, the answers you're going to get may be different. So how do you know that one is not the best they can do, even though it's different than the other? That's where you have to get a third party's perspective on this, right? And I'm not saying that third party needs to be UpperEdge, but I can tell you that you need to understand that when you're navigating this process, not only are you asking the same questions of each, so you have comparables, you need to understand very specifically what additional discount can Microsoft provide? What additional discount, we got a lot of questions on this, can Google provide? What renewal protection can Google do versus Microsoft? Because they may not, and here's the hint, they're not the same, right? What can they do on flexibility? What does it look like if you introduce GCP versus Azure, right? What additional concessions and concerns or conditions can you get, right? You need to start thinking about, and when you talk about the negotiation, there's core items. And again, you set the stage through the evaluation, which we covered during the webinar itself. But here's the things you need to think about. You need to start thinking about itemizing and understanding what those things are. And the last thing, the thing we didn't get to cover, and it's really important, it's starting to think about the truth, looking in the mirror, believing as a company that it's a viable option moving to Google, right? That it's viable. Because again, we touched upon this. Google, as well as Microsoft, are going to figure out if it's not a reality. And so you need to spend a significant amount of time on the front end, starting to work internally to get buy-in. And again, be honest and upfront with Google. Be honest and upfront with Microsoft. Allow them to understand what the true path forward is. It is a genuine evaluation. There's genuine interest. But that doesn't mean you're going to move away. It doesn't mean you're going to keep corporate with Office 365 and the deskless workers with Google G Suite. It doesn't mean that. It could mean that. And it's on Google and Microsoft to approach it appropriately, But more importantly, as an organization, you have to understand that if you don't make the move, your behaviors and actions today will impact the future. Because here's what I know, because we've worked with many organizations that stayed with Microsoft, but Google's getting better. They're getting more enterprise ready. And so the stage that you're setting today, in a year and a half from your renewal, you're gonna have to start thinking about the next one. And believe me when I tell you, Google's gonna be much more prepared and much more ready. And so honesty up front is important. So again, 3 things. 1, you need to make sure that there's an understanding around navigating the process the right way, right? 2, you need to understand that there's key terms negotiating between Microsoft and Google, and how far you can go with each may be different. And 3, you gotta look in the mirror. You have to be honest, because it's gonna drive the discussions in the appropriate manner to set the stage perhaps for what's gonna come later.